Proverbs 8. Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of high places, by the way in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. O ye simple, understand wisdom, and ye fools, be ye of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak of excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things. For my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness, there is nothing froward or perverse in them. They are all plain to him that understandeth, and right to them that find knowledge. Receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and find out knowledge of witty inventions. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way, and the froward mouth do I hate. Counsel is mine, and sound wisdom. I am understanding, I have strength. By me kings reign, and princes decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, even all the judges of the earth. I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold, and my revenue than choice silver. I lead in the way of righteousness, in the midst of the paths of judgment, that may cause those that love me to inherit substance, and I will fill their treasures. The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water, before the mountains were settled, before the hills, was I brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth, when he established the clouds above, when he strengthened the fountains of the deep, when he gave to the sea his decree that the waters should not pass his commandment, when he appointed the foundations of the earth, then I was by him, as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in the habitable part of his earth, and my delights
to victory
with the
and the
sons of men.
dawn of a new era.
Now therefore hearken unto me, O ye children, for blessed are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction, and be wise, and refuse it not. Blessed is the man that heareth me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoso findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death.
To victory and the dawn of a new era.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem Rakapadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Shah. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Shah. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, morning news and prophecy, okay, is go into the agenda, of technocracy. All right, because this is the government, okay, system that the devils are rolling out. All right, and that's why, AI is at the forefront, okay, of the priority, okay, of these governments, beginning with the American government, China's heavy into India, these nations, are heavy, all right, into AI. All right, because AI is a major part of what technocracy. Okay, this is why you have the technocrats being introduced to the earth, being heavily involved. All right, in government, in government affairs. All right, you have these different so-called experts and specialists. Okay, that are now dictating policy. Okay, for government. Okay, the way of elected officials, okay, the way of, all right, the old world, okay, is being phased out, okay, and they're phasing in technocracy. Now, I found the video that goes in depth, into, a few things, this guy, Patrick Wood, which, we probably get more, into some of his videos, because this is what he specializes in. He just, you know, his thing is all about, going into technocracy. Okay. And through technology itself, this devil thinks that he's onto something to where he can descend, to godhood. Okay. So I got a few precepts, that we're going to get into to establish foundation of the lesson. And then we'll get into the video. You know, it's quite, lengthy, but we're going to jump around. I'll put the link, to the whole video. It's worth to watch. It's about 53 minutes. Okay, but we're going to hit the main points of it. But it's worth a watch, the whole 50 some minutes, informative, because the scriptures say, be not ignorant in the matter small or great. Okay, because we in the times of being circumspect, all right, and not being ignorant, all right, to this devil devices. Okay, now this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, and verse 14. It says, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. Okay, I will be like the Most High. You see, and this is what the devil is on. Okay, technocracy is this devil, okay, claiming to be the Most High in the earth. Okay, him establishing himself as the Most High, and cutting the Most High out to play. You see, through technology, he wants to hijack, humanity. Okay, I say it's way bigger, all right, than him just trying to, get more money. They finna change to a whole new system. Okay, they finna change to a whole new money system because the wealth grab really is to extrapolate the money from the poor. Okay, to put the poor in dire straits. You see, these devils are now, okay, they have resources. You see, and they want to shell out resources to you now through digital credits. Okay, so let's go here. And these devils want to set up a society where the Most High is non-existent. You see, Esau is bugged out. Okay, the Lord has this man on a crash mission. Okay, that's what we have to understand dealing with Esau. This man is on the biggest crash mission ever. Okay, as we talk about crashing out, there is no one, all right, that's finna crash out like Esau. Okay, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 14 and 1. It said, the fool have said in his heart, there is no power, there is no Most High. They are corrupt, they have done abominable works. They said, there is none that do it good. All these devils are off, they're wicked. Okay, and you Israelites, you think that there's a few of these devils you can trust, that mean you good. Okay, you niggas was hyped up about, Trump this term, You niggas were hyped up about Biden. Okay, niggas are rallying behind Bernie Sanders. These are all Edomites. Okay, and none of them are good. Okay, they jump on screen and tell you these different policies, and you know, they make these gestures like they're for your good. You see, none of them do it good, man. All these devils think the same. They think the same. They're anti-Messiah, and they're all about positioning themselves at the Most High. Okay, Donald Trump was the biggest bait and switch, okay, in history. You know, he made all these promises to the American working class. All right, and as soon as he got in, 500 billion in AI infrastructure. You see, 500 billion. Okay, but you're arguing about five, six, $8 billion, for government assistance. Okay, but out the gate, inauguration was January 20th. Okay, January 21st, 500 billion to AI infrastructure. Okay, soon as he got in, he went left. That was the hardest crossover. Okay, in the history. You see, so the masses of the people have no idea. Okay, of where this is headed. You see, you're still arguing about these surface level debates. Okay, not understanding that there's been an agenda at play, right, in the works for a long time. Okay, and we're gonna get into it. So this is Jeremiah 49:16. It says, "Thy terribleness have deceived thee," and this devil has been able to terrorize the earth, through his military, all right, through his economy. The dollar is weaponized. Okay, and he's been able to get nations to bow down to his agenda, all right, through the sword, all right, and through his economy. Okay, so in his mind, all right, he's been puffed up. You see, he's been able to dominate so long that he's puffed up. And we're speaking about the elites that really push these agenda and forward these, that fund these wars. Okay, they create, these they created, this money system, to where it could be weaponized. Okay, and they're just pressing forward because they've been successful. All right, thus far. All right, and the Lord got them hyped up to come on in. Esau was all in. Esau has all his chips in the middle of the table on this technocracy, man. Okay, this is the government of the future under these devils. Okay, which is going to be overthrown quickly. you know, soon as he get to that point of feeling any type of achievement within this new world order, man, Yahweh Shai, all right, is going to intervene. Okay, he says, "In the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill, though thou shouldest make thy nest, okay, as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord." You see, and this is our comfort in all this, that this devil is finna be brought down. All right, he doesn't win, he doesn't succeed. Okay, and this is our comfort. All right, because just knowing these things and not understanding what's the end game, okay, it'll be depression, man. Okay, but we have a comfort in knowing that the Lord got this man mapped out. And Esau, he's just running his course, all right, before he's judged. You see, Proverbs 16:18, it says, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Okay, so what we're seeing with this devil, he's at the peak of his pride. Okay, and how about Shemal Shah has this man, okay, at the peak, you see, of his pride. You see, he's just peeking out in his pride right before he's judged. Okay, so let's segue to the video. All right, so this was a few days ago when this came out. All right, said the monetary system is not going to survive. All right, so going here, because what we're seeing is a controlled demolition, okay, on this old money system to bring in something new, okay. So let's play this.
And writing that you've done on the topic of technocracy, its
So
origins,
he's
its
gonna go from the beginning. He's gonna start to break these things down. And I said we're gonna jump around to the major points, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the link in the chat. All right, to this video. Um, like I say, it's worth a watch. It's about 53 minutes. But it's all informative. So fair use, fair use. Just for educational purposes only. No profits, no monetary gains are being made. Fair use.
development, its basically takeover of a major portion of our public and private lives that I don't hardly know where to begin. But perhaps I should give you a chance, maybe just in your elevator speech of what is technocracy, and then we'll take it from there.
You bet. Well, technocracy was an economic system that was modeled in 1932 at Columbia University. And when I say it's an economic system, that's exactly what they intended to make. They thought capitalism was dead. They thought the banking system was corrupt. They thought that they would get rid of money altogether, and they would base the resource-based economic system on energy consumption and production. So it's a very radical. I mean, you expect that from Columbia University. It was very radical in that day, and it had a huge impact, however, on America for sure, because there was over 500,000 dues-paying, card-carrying members of technocracy across the country, especially in the West, and they held meetings to talk about technocracy, and it was kind of the rage for a while, and it died out after the war started, but it was taken up again in at least 1970 or so by Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was a professor at Columbia University. So he understood the ins and outs of technocracy. And he wrote a book called Between Two Ages, America's Role in the Technotronic Era. They didn't use the term technocratic at Columbia because of other reasons, but it was banned, basically. It's a word. You'd get fired if you said that word. So he recast it as the Technotronic Era. This is where we are today. Brzezinski and David Rockefeller teamed up to start the Trilateral Commission in 1973 based on this book. And when Rockefeller, the money guy, he was the chairman of Chase Bank at that point, and in his mind, he saw this as a way to escape the money system and get resources directly into his hands, not the money representing the resources, but get the resources themselves under his control. So when I started writing about the Trilateral Commission in 1977 or so, we saw it as basically an asset grab or a land grab. That's where all the resources are in the first place, in the land. And this view has not changed over the years, in my opinion. And what we see going on today all around the world is basically the resources of the world are being stripped away from the people of the world and the nation states as well.
Hey, Tone, why should people come to the AI Advantage Summit November 6th, 7th, and 8th?
That's a good.
So technocracy.
Yeah, and just to make a point, all right, because he's speaking on that there are resources, okay, are being extrapolated from, okay, the private sector into corporations, okay, to citizens All right, is the land is being extrapolated from citizens into the corporate sector. Okay, that's why they're causing. That's why they're pricing people out of houses. They're making houses affordable. They're making mortgage affordable. They're making life not affordable. Okay, everything is being forfeited to the banks. Okay, that's why you see homelessness going up. Okay, repos, all these things are going up because they're extrapolating all the assets to corporations. All right, because when you foreclose, okay, when your house goes back to the bank, well, who does the bank belong to? These small banks belong to the big banks. The big banks belong to bigger banks, and the bigger banks belong to the central banks, which are the elite bankers. Okay, so they have all these assets being tripled up. That's why they're intentionally making, okay, everything unaffordable, pricing you out. Okay, that's what they're doing. They're pricing you out of the cost of living. Okay, because they plan to do a major reset. Remember, you will own nothing and be happy. Okay, and then it says they're not only taking land from citizens, they're taking land from nations. Okay, because the old world was colonized, all right, by what? These European governments, the French, the British, all right, the Portuguese, okay, the Spanish, okay, and these other different, European nations. The earth has been colonized under these European governments, okay, but this time the corporations are getting ready to colonize the earth. Okay, they're going to split the earth amongst these major corporations. All right. That's why they need the earth to be ran by technocrats. Okay. Because the world that they plan on, okay, ruling is gonna be colonized by corporations. Okay, that's why all this wealth is trickling to corporations. You see? So this is what we're seeing happening now in real time. Okay, everything is moving towards technocracy. You see? And that's why they're making Trump a dictator, okay, to bring this thing in with an iron fist. Okay, so let's play some more.
Was insidious. It was um, it was always based on technology. They talked about the science of social engineering as well, because they figured, well, if they're going to manage all the resources of the world, they have to account for people as well. And so they invented this thing called the science of social engineering. That's not a science, of course, but you get the picture. They wanted to manipulate people into accepting what they are trying to do. This is epidemic at this point. The social engineering that's going on all around us, the propaganda, the gaslighting, the psychological operations, is just crazy over the top at this point. But this
And this is what we go into all the time. So real quick, just to get a understanding of social engineering, okay? Because we have to understand that we're dealing with a society that's heavily socially engineered. So I went to the chat and asked it a quick question. Okay, so let's go here. All right, so I asked the chat, could social engineering be a tool used to manipulate the masses and create more control for the powerful few? It says yes, social engineering can absolutely be used and historically has been used as a tool to influence and or manipulate large groups, often to consolidate or maintain power. Okay, so it says methods of mass level social engineering. Powerful institution, whether governments, corporation, or interest groups, can employ various tools, okay, including propaganda and media control, framing news and information to evoke emotional response or stir public opinion. Okay, the reason why people look at those people in the Middle East is less than human. Okay, it's because of the dehum, dehumanizing propaganda of this man's media. Okay, and the reason why you look at, all right, certain leaders, all right, certain people in the world, look at Putin, the way people look at Russia, and see Esau. When you know the propaganda that the devil uses, okay, and you start to watch shows and different things, you start to see, okay, he's been planting these things in people's subconscious, man, certain, narratives and certain viewpoints. He's always planting in your subconscious, all right? Because your subconscious is where you draw your perspectives from unknowingly, okay? You start accepting things unknowingly through your subconscious, okay? Even going into the Jake dressing up in dresses. Okay, all through the 90s. What did you see? Jake in dresses, Shanae, Living Color, LaWanda, okay, all these different Jakes in these dresses, okay, and subconsciously it was getting you ready for this alphabet agenda, okay, and see, it's so vast when it comes to social engineering, but just showing you how it works, okay, to become a consumer. That's why America is such a consumer country, because it was social engineered to be a consumer. Okay, you look at the reality TV shows, the rap videos. Like I say, there's a lot of brands. You look back into the 80s and 90s, there's certain brands that Jake wouldn't even know about if these niggas didn't rap about it. Okay, if these things wasn't shoved down your throat through visuals, through the video, and through lyrics and the music, you wouldn't know about certain brands. All right, the neighborhoods we grew up in, they didn't have Jimmy Choo, Fendi. We never seen those stores like that. Most of us, some even the bigger cities. I know down for sure. Mississippi, man. We never seen a Fendi store, a Louis store. We didn't know what that was. Okay, but these things were what we were social engineered to desire particular things. Even with the C hip, okay, because they already conditioned us with digital money, from going to the debit card, because you went from checks to debit cards, okay. Then debit cards started having a chip in it. So now when you go to these registers, what are they asking you? Do you got the chip? You see, years of that is conditioning people, all right, to accept it, you know. So this is always doing some type of social engineering. The reason why an NBA young boy, all right, can be like a Michael Jackson, that comes from decades of social engineering and glorifying, all right, degeneracy. Okay. There's so much you can go into with the social engineering, but just to paint a picture of how this works, man. All right, so let's read some more. It says psychological operation of psyops, and we always get into that. Okay, it says psyops, deliberate campaigns that use disinformation, fear, and nationalism to justify policies or suppress dissent. Amplify, says social media algorithms, amplifying certain narratives, and see social media allow this man to social engineer on a whole nother level. You know, social media really allowed this man to modify people's behavior on a whole nother level. Okay. It says amplifying certain narratives or emotions like outrage or fear to influence public behavior, voting patterns, or consumer habits, promoting values, all right, cultural engineering, promoting values, entertainment, or trends that encourage conformity, distraction, or passivity, which means being passive. Okay, it said why it's effective. Why it's effective. Human, all right, are social creatures who rely on cues from authority, peers, and media to form opinions. Repetition, emotional triggers, and perceived uh, consensus can make even false narratives feel true. Okay, so people in social engineering is a is the practical term for enchantments. You know, and just enchantments. All right, if you look at these things spiritual on the left hand side, okay, and this devil, okay, he's mastered these things, man. Okay, so let's go back to the video. I just want to go into their social, engineering. So it's a lot, they go into that. Maybe I look for a video that's dealing directly with that. But let's go here back to the video.
This is an expression of technocracy. Maybe I should start or stop there rather and give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, and I just want to whet people's appetite here because in your interviews that you've done about this, you've talked about the eugenic roots and associations of the philosophies that led to technocracy. You've talked about globalist philosophies, this idea that there's always this greater good. You can keep bubbling it up. It's not the individual, and how it's a complete inversion of the American principles, and frankly of Judeo-Christian principles of the primacy of the individual as a made in the image and likeness of God. Thirdly, you've talked in some of your interviews about how it tends to put euphemistic front representations of itself while having very ugly aims in the background that would just turn people's stomachs if they knew what was coming. But one of those ways of getting in front is to say it's about science. It's all about science. We're going to follow the science. And where have we heard that recently? So people need to know about that. But one thing that really jumped out at me was at the very last of a three-part interview, first part of a three-part interview you did recently. You said, it says, nobody to my knowledge in the economic world has considered that there are two economic systems fighting for control over the world right now. One is capitalism and one is technocracy. One's going to die and one's going to live. Question is, which one? Will capitalism survive, or will it truly be supplanted by technocracy? And it says there are two economic systems. They're not just like oil and water. They're worse than that. They cannot exist. They're almost like matter and antimatter. They cannot exist in the same space. One will die and one will live. We're fascinated to hear more about that. So I'm going to try to keep my questions short so that you can take the time. The first is, can you help us understand very briefly what does the origins and philosophy of technocracy, which sounds like something new, like newfangled, like modern technology, like AI related or something, but its roots go way back, and how it's related to, where does it get born, and where its roots related to, for example, eugenics.
The worldview that existed at that time amongst these technocrats, these were the senior engineers and scientists at Columbia University, and there was other universities at the time that contributed people as well, but mostly it was Columbia. Their attitude at that point, their worldview, was totally mechanistic versus what was before that, a religious worldview that was based on the Bible and other things, Judeo-Christian ethics.
So just to sum up what they're saying, what he's finna go into, all right, is that science is used to reference the Bible. As they did research, the Bible was a reference, an authority, to oversee, the science. Okay, but as these devils, okay, especially during what you call the Enlightenment era of the 1700s, okay, these devils began to dismiss the Bible, okay, and go about, all right, another way, okay, as if there was some wisdom, all right, outside the Bible. There was a type of wisdom that triumphed the Bible, okay. So really, during that Enlightenment era, that's where you see anti-Messiah philosophy really be pushed, okay, in the earth, all right, from these Edomites, from these top philosophers and scholars, all right, of the devil, okay. They began to dismiss the Bible, all right, and began to go in another way. All right. Their science is rooted in Satanism and rebellion. Okay.
Morality and the mechanistic attitude that posited, well, everything can be understood from a mechanistic viewpoint. If we could figure out how stuff works in the first place, then we could fix it, then we can engineer it, then we can change it. So the rush was on to look into nature and systems of things, how people work, with each other, how society works, and the science of social engineering as well. So they set out to discover everything that pertained to the actions of men and the interaction of ecosystems and how the world works. And they drilled down into every possible nook and cranny to understand the world. Well, it's starting to backfire on them, by the way, because when you look into things too deeply, you get in big trouble. And this has been expressed in the last century with studies on scientism, for instance, which is the worship of science. When you look into nature and the systems of things too deeply, you become captured by those systems. You become the slave of those systems rather than the controller of those systems. So the mechanistic attitude at that point, it rejected anything to do with God, and they said, no, that's old way of thinking, and there's no way that we can have progress unless we figure out how everything works. That's where they started. And they've continued this progression of looking into things, if you will, with anything scientific, whether it's engineering or science, theoretical science or practical applied science. They've pursued this the quest of looking into everything. So you see today, for instance, genetic engineering. It's all over the space. You can't hardly see past the overt desire to engineer every living thing on the planet. Where did this come from? Well, it came from that era, and this is just the natural extension of this at this point. I posted an article basically recently on the IUCN, this large conservation organization associated with the UN, and they have created a policy document on synthetic biology. Well, what is synthetic biology? Well, it's the mixing and matching of genetic material between species and even within species, and they think this is a good thing. Well, you can see that if they're left to themselves, they're going to actually destroy the world at some point when they're going to flip the wrong switch because they don't really understand what they're doing in the first place, but they think they can get there if they just pursue it.
Yeah, yeah, man. So he's saying a lot of points that the Bible address. So these devils, have been on the quest, all right, to search out everything, and let's get some precepts on that. You see, the devil, all right, these elites, okay, they got these think tanks, they got, these colleges, which are nothing but breeding grounds, to find the sharpest minds, okay, so they can tap into everything. You go into these colleges and, these test scores are ultimately, okay, data for the elites, okay, to find the sharpest minds to look into everything, okay, and in their mind, through knowledge, all right, they're going to tap into godhood, okay, they're going to go beyond the Most High, they're going to transcend if they can just get how if they can just understand how everything works, and he's obsessed with it. And just like Patrick Wood said, he's become a slave to that. Okay, and Esau's a slave to his ambition, and it's going to lead him to a hell of a fate. Okay, which we're going to get it, but this is the brother GMS Spiritual Art 144, and it says Sirach 19 and 22 said the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. Okay, the earth is being ran by a council of sinners. These devils get together with all these agendas and plans, and they look into this and they look into that, going back into, genetically engineering. That's why you have GMOs, genetically modified organisms. That's this devil looking into everything and trying to recreate what already is. You see, this devil is trying to have his own Genesis. Okay, when you go into Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, okay, in the creation of everything, when the Lord said everything was good, Elohim, they agreed, all right, that the blueprint that they got from the Most High, like, okay, it's good, it's pleasing, it's agreeable. But this devil, his mind is to re-engineer creation, man. Okay, this devil's a madman on another level. Okay, it's bigger than these little surface arguments that people get caught up in. Okay, it's bigger than a goddamn a hood voucher. Okay, it's bigger than Trump don't like black people. It's way bigger than that, man. Okay, the people that Trump answer to, okay, they're into re-engineering creation. Okay, that's why you had the juice. That juice wasn't a normal juice. That was an experiment that the devil whipped out the lab. Okay, he wanted to, that's why people that was taking that juice said they don't feel human anymore, because this man is trying to re-engineer what a human is, man. Okay, Esau was a mad scientist on the loose. Okay, and this man's wisdom that he boasts in is not true wisdom, man. It's destructive. Okay, and he mastered, how to get quick, results, and people look at it like, oh man, this nigga is great. Okay, but you look at what this man is doing, he's destroying everything. That's why Patrick Wood said he would destroy everything if they keep going. Like, these niggas really don't know what they doing. He got some things that he can present it. He got some technology and he can do some things, and he's tapped in. But then when it comes to what he's trying to pull off, trying to be the most high, he don't know what the hell he doing, man. You know, Isaiah 64 minutes like this on Psalm 64 and 5, it says they encourage themselves in the evil matter. They all encourage each other, to keep going. Look, we made this progress, we got this going, we got this, we got this breakthrough. We almost there. We can just, you see, they these elites, they encouraging each other, man, to keep going. It said they commune on laying snares. Previously, they say, who shall see them? Okay, because going back, this society is just full of snares of people, to get trapped up in and get caught up in. Okay, this whole society, everything, you think, something is being done for your convenience. You think that these scientists are either going into these labs and all these billions of dollars are being spent with your best interest in mind. It's a snare, and it's all to snare you into this digital prison. Okay, the end game is for the devil to have complete and total control over existence, man, over creation. Okay, but he presents it in convenience and upgrades and technology, and it's all about efficiency. Okay, but it's all a snare. You see, and the masses are finna be taken in this snare. You see, it says they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Okay, and just like he said, they look into everything. Esau look into everything. That's why he wants to manipulate the weather. He wants to manipulate your DNA. He wants to manipulate the foods. He wants to, you know, 3D print meat. He wants to He got, wants to make a fake sun. Okay, he trying to block the sun rays with, he got chemtrails. He got all this. He just do a diligent search. Okay, into everything, man. Okay, this all this man is about is diligently searching out wickedness, man. Okay, it says, but both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Okay, they get deep into these things. Okay, psychology. That's why they're efficient with these psyops because all they do is study. All right, psychology, human spirits, man, the mind. They study the mind. They study what music does. That's why he has. I say he engineered a young nigga. He engineered, okay, uh, nigga culture. That's a social engineering. That's a lab project. What niggas call a culture and what niggas die about is a science project of Esau, man. The way niggas are, it's a sign because it's not normal. Okay, our people are becoming less and less normal to where you can't even understand these niggas, man. You don't even know what Jake is saying anymore. Okay, Jake is becoming less and less normal. All right, within the lab of Esau. That's why they call it the projects. It's a project. Okay. Oh boy. So let's go here to the book of Job. Even like we go talk about, the nigga woman, her selection of men. Well, she's been engineered to select those men. Okay. The nigga woman has been engineered to select the worst of the worst. She thinks she's making an independent choice. No, you've been engineered to do that. Okay. Esau been putting this in your subconscious from birth. Okay. You're engineered to make these decisions and think you're making this independent decision, think you're doing something great. You've been engineered to think like that's why it's so rampant. That's why it don't make rational sense. Because you scratch your head like, God damn, you know, but this is way deeper, all right, than the surface, man. Okay, this is Joel 21:14. This is the mind of the wicked said, therefore they say unto the most high power, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit should we have if we pray unto him? Okay, they're in their mind, they're beyond the God of the Bible. They own something else. Okay. They're ready to roll out something else. You see, the God of the Bible is outdated to them. They've transcended that. Okay. The God of the Bible holds them back. Okay, from what they want to do. Okay. It said, lo, their power is not in their hand. The counsel of the wicked is far from me. Okay. So these devils in their counsel is far from the most high and what he attended. All right, the order that he all right wants in the earth. These devils are the complete opposite. Okay. It says, how oft is the candle of the wicked put out, and how oft cometh their destruction upon them? The Most High distribute his sorrows and his anger. So how often does the Most High have to show, all right, their wickedness, okay, never prevails. Okay. And what we're going to see is that Esau is going to be the latest example of wickedness never prevails. It has its run, it has its era, its golden age, but then it fizzles out. All right. It said they are as stubble before the wind and as chaff that the storm carried away. All right. Which is going to be the nukes, man. No chariots, man. Okay. That's going to completely obliterate this man's kingdom. Okay. And his power is going to be stripped from him, from king to peasant. You see? So let's go here. Just like he said, if the Lord didn't intervene, all right, let's go here to the book of Matthew 24, because if the Lord didn't intervene with the devil, this is the book of Matthew 24 and 21. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, all right, those days shall be shortened." So the Most High is going to shorten, he's going to stop this devil, okay, in his tracks, man, you know, because the devil, the Lord's going to use this devil to bring chaos and tribulation into the earth to try to pull this thing off, but then he's going to be stopped, okay, in the midst of it, man. You see, and this is our hope, man. This is why the Bible was full, of victory over everything this man got going on. All right, the complete madman. All right, that's in power. So let's play some more. I got a few more. I'm gonna jump around.
So, all that to say that the worldview that they started out was very poor. It was totally anti-God, anti-human, and here we are today. And the expression of technocracy today is expressed in, well, for instance, the what they call convergent science at this point. This is practiced in all universities around the world. It combines the disciplines of nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, and cognitive science. And basically, this is trying to examine everything in the world and fit it into this mold where they can take control over everything in the world. Crazy stuff. It really is crazy.
And relate.
Hmm. So let's jump a little bit to, let's go to about, here.
If you're looking to upgrade your heating system this fall or winter, then this is hands down the system you need to be looking at. These new all-electric cold climate
Out in some of your interviews, and you mentioned just now briefly how a philosophy or technology that sprouted up in California, then jumped over and was adopted by Hitler and the Nazi Party, and then how after the war, Operation Paperclip, you went into some detail about how that was brought right back, and the same scientists who were working one month in their desks in Nazi Germany were working the next month in their desks in high positions in the U.S., and it mattered not to them. We don't know about individual how they felt about it, but from a philosophical standpoint, it mattered less to them that they were working for this country or that country or this political system or that political system than that they were just advancing this particular, I guess you'd call it a pseudo-religion of basically playing God. Any comments on that and how that ties in with this notion of globalism, that what really matters is this sort of this greater good, and so it matters not if you're on team A or team B or team C. You're working for this global ultimate utopia.
It's interesting. It's interesting that the concept of globalism, it goes back way back in our history, even back to the founding of our country. The New World Order is printed on all of our currency. Then what is it called? I can't get the phrase out. But the Latin term for New World Order is not all of our currency. There was,
And let's get there real quick. Okay. Well, he's going into the Latin terms. All right, that on the dollar. And this was in 1776. Okay. When these things were established. All right. So let's go there real quick. So you go into the Latin terms on the dollar bill. All right. It said the dollar bill contains 3 Latin phrases. All right. From the Great Seal of the United States. Okay, and it's a Nuit, all right, Coeptus, all right, which goes to he has favored our undertaking, which is speaking of Satan, all right, because of God, in God we trust. They're speaking of Satan, just on the money. Okay, so these devils are deceived. Okay, then Satan, favors their undertaking. All right, now the term he was speaking of was called Novus Ordo Seclorum. All right, Novus Ordo Seclorum. All right, which is a new order of the ages. Okay, because the dollar was always meant to be a bridge. Okay, to this new world order. Okay, and as we're seeing, what they're collapsing the dollar because they're at the end of the bridge. Okay, with the dollar and segueing into what a new order of the ages, which is technocracy, man. Okay, and then you have another Latin term, right? E pluribus, all right, unum, e pluribus unum, out of many one. Okay, one world, all one world order. Okay, you see, all this is one world order doctrine, man. Okay, he said these phrases are found on the reverse side of the bill. Okay, with a nuit, all right, coeptis above the pyramid, Novus Ordo Seclorum below it, and the E, all right, pluribus unum, all right, on a banner held by the eagle. Okay, and when you go into it, it says uno it coeptis. It said this phrase means, okay, he, which is God, is just speaking of Satan, has favored our undertaking. Okay, and appears above the pyramid of the Great Seal. It suggests divine approval of the American experiment. Okay, what is an experiment? See, what you people call a culture and patriotism was an experiment of the elites. Okay, and they're done with that experiment. Now it's on to this new age. Okay, so oh boy, so let's go back.
There's always been a push for unifying the world under one system. In fact, even going back to the Bible story of the Tower of Babel, when the whole world, they said, was one language and was all together to do a project building this tower. Well, you see this is reoccurred in history all the time, and this is what we have today is an expression of that. He was starting in 1973 when the Trilateral Commission was formed. One of the complaints that they expressed openly, well, we haven't been successful to create this new world order. So far, we've failed with all of our, they call them the frontal approaches. So they said that, well, we're going to try a new strategy. We're going to do an end run around national sovereignty. And so they took off on a new tangent, if you will, to kind of recast globalization in a new light. And this is the light we see today, by the way, with technocracy. The whole thing was started with technocracy in the first place, and it's ended up now the ugly system that it is. But the forces of globalization have always been there behind all these systems over the years. But technocracy has been the one that's gained the most traction of any system in history to bring the whole world together as one.
The term science or follow the science or this is about scientific and everything, the science is.
Yeah, like I say, it's a good watch. It's about 23 more minutes in that video. He goes into, some more interesting things. Okay. But let's go here because he brought out, the Tower of Babel, which brothers get into that, comparing that to this time now. The brother Eliasha Wamba, he's always getting into that, comparing what we seeing now to the Tower of Babel. All right, he calls it a technological, all right, tower, okay, a Babel that we see today. All right, and when you look that up, okay, so I looked into the chat. I said, could the Tower of Babel story in the Bible be compared to an anti-Messiah one world order today? All right. So it said that's a very interesting and thoughtful question. And yes, many theologians, historians, and prophecy interpreters have drawn parallels between the Tower of Babel narrative and modern ideas of a globalized one world order or anti Messiah system. Here's how the comparison is often made. The Tower of Babel, all right, which is Genesis 11, 1 through 9. After the flood, humanity spoke one language and united to build a great city and tower with its top in the heavens to make a name for themselves. He said their unity and ambition as all right. He saw their unity and ambition as potentially dangerous because it reflected pride and rebellion. Humans trying to achieve godlike status and independence from Him. Okay, and this is what we're seeing amongst these devils now. They want to reach godlike status and independence from the Most High. We just read that in Job 21. Okay, they despise the ways of the Heavenly Father. They despise righteousness, man. And Esau thinks that he's just finna run off from the plug. The earth was given into the hand of the wicked, and Esau, well, I'm finna run off. I'm finna have this forever. You see? It said the Most High confused their language and scattered them over the earth, halting their project. Okay, which that's what's that, Job 5 and 12 and 13, if a brother want to post that. Okay. They said the Most High halted their project, and it's going to be the same thing with this devil. All right. It said the one world order or anti-Messiah parallel. It says in prophetic and symbolic reading, especially among Christian interpreters, Babel is seen as a prototype or foreshadowing of an end time global system that unites humanity under a single political, economic, or religious authority. Okay? Revelation 13, 17, and 18, the beast and Babylon the Great, which is America, seeks to replace, America ran by Esau, these Chaldeans, okay, these elites, these technocrats, seeks to replace the Most High with human power, technology, or ideology. Okay, this is the quest that this devil is on, man. Okay, a lot of things that people are arguing about, fussing about, nigga trying to figure out if they gonna get 50% of their stamps, or they gonna what's next, and the contingency plan, and you know, nigga, worried about what Thanksgiving gonna be like. This nigga is trying to replace the Most High. Okay, this is what this nigga is on, man. It said pursues global unity apart from divine authority, just as Babel's builders sought to reach heaven by their own means. Okay, and this devil thinks that on the left hand side, especially through his AI, that he's on to something. Okay, it said is motivated by pride and exhaustion. Okay, echoing Lucifer's rebellion, which Lucifer is speaking of, the king of Babylon, which is speaking of Esau. Okay, because Lucifer just means light bearer. Okay, in the Hebrew. Okay, when you go into it, which there's lessons on that, you look that up. Okay, but in this time, this devil, he proclaims himself as the enlightened one. Okay, he thinks that he's enlightened, with this special wisdom to reach God who on the left hand side. Okay, it says in this interpretation, Babylon symbolizes mankind's collective rebellion against the Most High's order, with a future Babylon or one world system would be its final expression under the anti-Messiah, which uh, there's not one, character that's going to be the anti-Messiah. This whole system is anti-Messiah, ran by Esau Edom. Okay, the nation of anti-Messiah. Okay, so what we're seeing, okay, is the modern Tower of Babel, okay, under Esau, and he's campaigning all these nations to build with him, and that's why all these nations are going into captivity, because they're building with the devil. But you got a remnant that's not. You got a remnant of Israel that's speaking out against it. Okay, it said divine boundaries versus human control. It said in Babel, okay, it said in Babel, the Most High divided languages to limit evil spread. In the end times, prophecy suggests these boundaries could collapse again under one global regime. Okay, which that's prophetic. Okay, so yeah, man, we in the time, because when you go into this last part, it said people sometimes connect this to global governance bodies like the UN or WEF, okay, digital currency and centralized control, okay. You see that? Transhumanism or AI merging humanity with technology, okay, religion, syncretism, okay, or universal spirituality, man. Okay. So yeah, man, this this devil, he's embarked on, okay, this path, okay, of a modern Tower of Babel. And it's going to end the same in disaster. Okay, so this is going to be way more devastating than the Lord just confusing and confounding the language, man. The Lord finna show a whole nother level of power. It said, whether one takes this as literal fulfillments of symbolic warnings, the spiritual principles remain. Humanity's attempt to achieve salvation or unity without the Most High mirrors Babal's spirit, and biblically, the path always leads to judgment. Okay, the path always leads to judgment. You see, so this is where we at, man. All right, and let's go here, get a couple more precepts. All right, let's see. Brother got that yet? Cool. All right, this is Job chapter 5, verse 12. All right, it's from the Brother Biblical Truth Revealed 144. It says he disappointed the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the fraud is carried headlong. Okay, so this devil, he's not all right going to pull this off. He's going to get close. Okay, it's going to be a it's going to be a hell of an attempt. You see, but the Lord is going to disappoint this man. All right, and everything that he's done, to try to establish this new world order, it's going to work against him. It's going to work against this man. He's finna lose. Okay, so let's get this here. Okay, because we always get it in the book of Psalms. All right, chapter 2. Let's read the NLT. Okay, this is Psalms 2 and 1. It says, why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? Okay, so Esau has these nations coming together, the WEF, the World Economic Forum, all these plans and Agenda 2030 and this and that, and all these different things that these devils got planned. It's futile. Okay, it's irrelevant to what the Lord is getting ready to do. Okay, So these are futile plans. All this looking, the devil looking into everything. He want to know how DNA work, how this work, how that work. You know, mixing this and fusing this, and you see, micro technology, and all these different things that he's tapped into. It's all for naught. Okay, so the kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord, Yahweh Bashim al Shai, and against his anointed one. So these devils are preparing to fight Yahweh Shai when he comes back. These devils have hey, Esau. Here it is, this devil said, I'm a hijack, okay, creation and re-engineer how I want it. All right. And if the Lord do come back, I'm gonna fight him too. You see, this is what the devil is on. Crazy crash out, man. Okay, this is a complete crash out agenda. Lord will we be on the chair to watch this man completely crash out. Okay. It said, let us break their chains, they cry, and free ourselves from slavery to the Most High. Okay, that's what this technocracy is about. Is to them to break loose from the order of the Most High and re-engineer everything how they like it to where they're the top authority now. Okay, it said, but the one who rules in heaven laughs, the Lord scoffs at them. Okay, this is a joke to the Most High. All this energy and work that these niggas are putting in, to try to pull this off. Him scrambling. He's stretched thin. This devil is stretched thin, man. He's not having no easy time trying to pull this off, man. This devil is stretched thin. Okay. And this is comedy to the Most High. All right. It says, then in anger he rebukes them, terrifying them with his fierce fury. And that's going to be through this war in which Yahweh Shai is going to enter into this realm. You see, and all that pride going to disappear immediately. When Yahweh Shai appear and get busy and destroy all this shit that these devils have put up, have set up. Okay, all them satellites and all that shit coming down. Okay, space station, all this coming down. It said, for the Lord declares, I have placed my chosen king on the throne in Jerusalem, on my holy mountain, Yahweh. All right, it's finna replace his son, Yahweh Shai. Okay, it's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords forever. And Lord will, all right, we are those joint heirs to that. This is what we're fighting for, brother. When Yahweh Shai comes, okay, and disappoint this man and set up a new government, the real new world order and righteousness, man. That we are a part of it. You see? So that's the point. Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edify once again. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessing salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.